All right, admin reports, Superintendent?
Yes, I have just two items, Mr. Chairman. One regarding district-wide communications. I know there were some email, conversations regarding district-wide communications about issues of concerns that the district committee may have. I just want to reiterate that we've given you a copy of the open meeting law just as a refresher, because obviously there are some things we can't do on email. And there are things that our administration cannot, information we cannot share with you that is legally restricted. Those would be issues regarding student discipline, employee discipline, personnel matters. Obviously, there are very specific statutes that prohibit me from calling you up and saying, hey, by the way, Susie Jones, who is a 5th grade student, has had this issue at home, and we filed a Department of Families and Children to look into the situation. We can't do that. I know social media sometimes blows up and has all kinds of information on it. Well, all kinds of stuff on it. I wouldn't even call it.
Some of it's even moderately correct.
Some of it, but not all of it, and oftentimes not any of it. And as a result, sometimes people meet you in the grocery store, they meet you on the street, and they go, what in heck is happening at East Cupcake Elementary School, or at the high school, or at the middle school, and asking you for details that you generally don't have because you shouldn't. And some people have said to me, well, what do we say? It looks like we're not doing our job if we wouldn't have that information. And if you had that information, you definitely wouldn't be doing your job, because that is against statute. We cannot share that kind of student information with you, nor can we share personnel information with you that has to do with somebody's employment status that isn't public record. Like, is the person certified? Yes, we can do that. But if there is an issue of concern where we are involved with a teacher on a disciplinary matter, we cannot share that information with you. So please, the only way we could do it is to give them 48-hour notice for them to have their attorney here and in closed session, with you probably having our attorney here as well. Then we could have some sort of a conversation. That is highly irregular, and probably our attorney would say, why are you doing that? But there could be occasions where that would be necessary. So just to let you know that as far as district-wide communications about things like that we can't share with you, please give us a specific call and say, Maureen, I'm concerned about this. Should I be concerned about that? Ned just met me in the hall. He said, should I be concerned about this? And I said, no, you shouldn't be concerned about that. There's been a complete investigation, and we're moving forward with a personnel matter. But that's all I can say. And so please feel free to call us if you hear some information. Please be very cautious about what you may read or hear about second or third hand on social media, please, because that doesn't help us, and it doesn't help you, because oftentimes that information may not be accurate. If it is accurate and parents are sharing information about their own child, I can't stop that, but that is seldom the case. It is generally a little less than accurate, and we ask you to just have trust in the system that if we are involved, and we've been involved, and we have some students who have recently been, they've been charged with felonies. They are no longer in our catchment. We are not any longer, they're not in our school. However, we have legal responsibilities to educate them in some ways, and I know that Sue is eagerly awaiting the opportunity to talk with our district's school attorney, and so that we can figure out if and when that child is out of a lockup, what we are going to do with that individual child. Social media, I'm sure, will crank up about that. So please understand that we're not trying to be disrespectful to you and leave you hanging without information. If you're nervous and concerned and you have a specific question, please call us individually, either the high school principal, if that's where the case is, or the elementary principal, or myself, and we will tell you what we're able to tell you. We can dispel rumors. We can say, that's not true, that's not true, that's not true. So please understand that we don't want to, hoard information, but we do have to be respectful of our requirements for, confidentiality for students' records and for personnel. So I've whined enough about that.
I'll follow up for a moment on that. So as a school committee member for many years, I can appreciate where a parent comes to you and says, oh, we heard this happen to Johnny, or this happened at Ruggles, or this happened at the middle school, and you don't know anything about it, and you kind of feel bad that you don't know something about it, but you just cannot keep up with this stuff. No, really, and the best example, and I have one example that finally like clarified the whole thing for me, and Dave, you were probably there because we were on a DC trip. The kids were just starting to get into cell phones. I mean, second or third year in, we really didn't have to deal with that stuff yet. But now the 8th graders had cell phones. And we had a situation, we got there, it was the first night, a group of girls had an issue. One called her mother crying. The mother calls Sue Musnicki saying, "Oh my God, what's happened? My daughter says this has happened." Sue called Todd, who was running the show at that point. Todd had no clue what was going on because it happened in just this little room. He goes to the teachers who are coming to, and now everybody's like sort of running around saying, "What the heck is this?" By the time we got to the girls, they had settled their differences. There was no issue. But yet, once again, you're sitting there saying, I don't know what's going on, and if a parent calls me, I really feel bad about it. That's the way the game, it's too bad, but that's the way the game is played. It really is, and you just have to deal with that. I mean, it almost clarifies, because I used to fixate on some of that stuff, and my kids were very good. Do you need to tell me anything today? Don't squeal on anybody, but did anything weird happen at school today? My kids are out of school, so I don't have that touchstone, and a lot of us don't. Some of us still do, but it's just the nature of the beast. And in all my years, I've never had, anytime something came up or I wanted the information, I never had a principal that could not give me that information. If not at that very moment, they would say, "Come by after school and we'll discuss this." Or the principal might even say, "Gee, let me find out, because I know a little about it, but let me find out some more and we can have a discussion." I mean, all our administrators have been very good about giving information, but there are times where they're not even plugged in at that point yet. And that was a few years ago. Now with Facebook and everything, it becomes a horror show. I mean, the thing that happened last fall when we went through the whole deal about saying, okay, we're going to be a lot stricter on kids coming to school and people not saying, "Oh, we're taking April vacation or doing this," and it was like a blow up on Facebook saying, "Oh my God, how can you make kids do homework if they want to take that week off? How horrible it is!" And then when there was a massive flashback against those parents, it suddenly just went very quiet because suddenly they thought, "Oh gee, nobody's agreeing with us. Maybe kids should have homework if they're going to cut out for a week or so." So Facebook's a tough thing to deal with, and unfortunately, there are no real good answers. You just have to, do the best you can, communicate the best you can, and that's why we have, as we go through our agenda, we have school committee concerns so that people can bring that stuff up. We can chat about it here, and if we need to take further action on it, then that's what we would do. I mean, that's our best approach. Thanks.
Okay, second, under my report tonight is a presentation regarding school building utilization that we thought we would have we thought we'd have some information, but now we have a lot of information. And so what we would like to do is to ask the chair to appoint a task force for a very short period of time in order to investigate into some potential new building utilization plans that may be forthcoming for the New Braintree and Ocam grade schools. Tricia's been working very, very hard and diligently figuring out ways in which we might be able to better educate the Ocam New Braintree student population and trying to find some way in which to continue to use perhaps New Braintree Elementary School as still an educational institution, but maybe for special education or adult education programming. We think we have some potentials in that area, and what we would ask the chair to do is to give us Mr. Deschamps, because of his role on the task force for years, Ms. Chamberlain, because of her role on the subcommittee for special education, and obviously we would love to have the school committee member from New Braintree, as the impact of some of these discussions obviously will be on the New Braintree grade school, and to begin to work with us on information, on gathering information and looking at some potential solutions to some of our building utilization issues, and hope that we might be able to better service our children, better provide opportunities for not only our elementary but also our special education students, as well as maybe doing some shared services or some blended services with another institution that is working with multiply disabled intellectually disabled as well as physically disabled young adults. So we're hopeful that we could have the opportunity to have that task force work with us, and hopefully by early June to have some ideas that perhaps we could bring to the committee for votes.
Dick?
Are there any potential financial benefits in this?
Well, there's always financial benefits when you're going to do some shared services with a unit that needs some building space that we have. And so, yes, I would suspect that we would have some offsetting, costs for, heat, lights, and those kinds of things in a rental kind of agreement. The organization that we're dealing with is about 67 years of history in the area. They're pushing out to this part of the Commonwealth. They're in the Sturbridge, Southbridge area now, and would be very interested in, they have some clients from Barry, some from Hardwick already, and so on. So it's sort of a win-win for us. I would suspect initially, as they got up to speed, that, we would still have the majority of expenses, but those expenses over time would be shifting away from us, but still, providing us with space for some of our transitional services for our special needs children who turn 18 and then 22. And we're able, through Kristen's efforts, to still provide some help for kids who are, their 22nd birthday. But this would really give a great transition for those students to those adult programs that they need. So we're thinking that this could be a win-win for us. It's an opportunity to do what we've been working so hard to do, which is to try to partner with agencies that would keep our schools a school. They would be there just 5 days a week. In the evening, the school is open to the community. The school would be open to the community on weekends, and so on and so forth.
Is this simple? I'm sorry.
Follow-up?
Yeah, does this mean that potentially, instead of some kid going off to a $100,000 thing with a $50,000, $60,000 bus every day, that they might be in this place?
I would suspect that this is more of a program that's probably for those students, and help me up here, Kristen, for probably those who are,
It's an adult agency, so it's
Yeah.
mostly for students that would be engaged with
our programs.
our programs until, some special education students stay with us until age 22. But we just had a preliminary discussion.
Right.
And Maureen was very, as she always is, and said, well, what about this and what about this? And could we partner with you for the program that we have for our 18 to 22-year-olds? So we just talked about a lot of different options, so we could maybe be very creative and create some kind of hybrid programs that might save us and might save them, maybe our space.
I think it can be certainly a mutualistic program where both of us benefit. Our students, their adults, and remember, those adults are going to be coming from our communities. So the education that we'll be providing for a lot of the people will be from our 5 communities, and that's kind of a nice thing. And so we'd like to, continue conversations, but we thought someone from the SPED subcommittee, somebody from the task force, and obviously Peggy, whether you want to or not, you're on. So we're very excited about the possibilities, and hope that we can all keep an open mind about it and look at, and when we asked, they said, I said, do you have any other programs where you actually utilize school space for this? Because they've been going into old factories and sort of rehabbing them to, and they were just enamored with, oh my gosh, we have a place that's really set up for educational opportunities, and they have a kitchen for that vocational component, and they have, obviously some of the people that they work with, they have, in custodial units learning that sort of skill and talent. And so it's really an exciting prospect for us. And when we asked, well, do you do this anywhere else with any other school district? And they said, absolutely not. This would be a first in the Commonwealth. And so, of course, I was immediately intrigued by the first in the Commonwealth. Shocking. Poor Sheila's just sitting there saying, but not really.
No, not at all.
So we're really excited about this and hope that we can get 3 members from the, short-lived, with 6-8 weeks, and we should be either we're a go or we're not a go.
Dave?
I'm good, and I'm excited because it's something actionable,
Yeah,
and that's what I'm excited about. Is it something you're thinking about for September?
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. You got me, I got 1 week in May, I'm gone then.
Although I'm living in hope that, we're collecting data now on square footage and this, how high the toilets are and, things, logistical things. And we'll be asking Cheryl to run numbers for us, and she probably knows it off the top of her head. Heat, light, what does it cost us to kind of manage that building? So what would be a charge to them that would make some sense, that makes sense for them, makes sense for us? So we've got, lots of logistical things. We're looking at probably a phase-in at year 1 and then year 2 and 3. And they started out with a program recently in Sturbridge, who started out with 22 year 1, and we're at 94 year 2. And that's that end of the catchment area. Obviously, our end of the catchment area is still unserviced.
Sounds good.
So if the chair would appoint that
Sure.
officially, and so giving us the sort of authority to move forward, that would be great.
Okay.
We're very excited about this, and it really could make a difference in our expenditures as far as not having duplicative services like two secretaries in 2 buildings and not having enough kids in either one. So we're really
Preserving
excited
a
about it.
school in each
Yes,
town
exactly.
is a great goal.
Yes, it is.
And if this would help accomplish that, as well as some financial benefits, as well as some benefits to our population, man, that sounds good.
Yeah, it really does. So we're very excited about it.
Okay. Anything else?
No, those are my 2 big things for the evening.
All right, Sheila?
I just have one item, Mr. Chairman. The K-6 teacher leader team and the K-6 administrative team met recently to look at the data regarding our pilot of Eureka Math that we've been doing this year. And we had some student achievement data that we had done through our Galileo testing. We had teacher survey data from teachers who have used both programs. And we have decided to adopt the Eureka program for K-6 next year and continue that. So about half of our teachers, K-6, taught that program this year, and the remaining 20 to 22 teachers will get on board next year. So it's a program that aligns with the program that we're using at the middle high school, and we're very excited about the possibilities. So I just wanted to bring the committee up to speed on that.
Thank you.
So what's the cost going to be?
Well, we don't have to actually buy anything except we have to buy a few classroom manipulatives, and which is about $5,000 one-time expenditure. We have, and then there are copying costs. It's a open source program, so the access to the online materials is free, but we have printing costs, and we've calculated the printing costs to be about K-12, about $13,000 a year with the materials, the labor, and the the paper costs and that. So it's it's a bargain in a lot of ways for a K-12 math program.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you. Cheryl, before I tap on you, just a reminder, because I don't know if we're going to vote on anything, but seeing no new faces here today, everybody who was up for re-election made it. I just want to make sure that you got sworn in, because if you haven't been, then you can't vote on anything appropriately or sign anything appropriately.
I don't believe that Ocam
So-
and New Brain and Hubbardston have had their elections yet.
Okay. All right, so, but just,
I'm good.
oh, I figured you were there the day after.
I was.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm
Actually,
good.
2 days, because it wasn't open the next day.
Okay. Cheryl.
Warrants. Since our last meeting, the warrant subcommittee has signed payroll warrants 19 through 22, and accounts payable warrants 21A, 21B, 22V, 23A, 23B, 24A, 24V, and 25A. That's warrants. In your packet are quarterly reports for the budget for this year, but I think we're going to hold it just until we get down and do the reports and the budget transfer at the same time later in the agenda. I do have a food service update. There's a report in your packet. There are just some things that I'd like to highlight, if I can find my report. Highlight for the public. The director has designed a new, easy-to-read average daily participation report, and I created a little chart. And what we're doing is we're comparing 3 years' worth of data. So for this school year to date, the middle high school has had a reduction in average daily attendance of 2%, but an average daily participation in the program of a positive 2.6%. So that's like a 5% swing in participation at the middle high school from last year. The elementary, we have to group them together because there's been so much movement of programs and students moving from building to building that it doesn't make sense to compare increases or decreases in participation when you have such different student enrollments this year. But elementary as total, the average daily attendance is down 1.3%, while the average participation is down less than 1%, so that's good. Comparing to 2 years ago, the middle high school their daily average attendance is down by over 5%, but participation in the program is up 7.6%. So that is fantastic. The elementary level, not as good, but good. The enrollment is down by 8.2%, but participation is only down 1.6%. So in total, we're doing very well in the food service program for participation this year. Unfortunately, that participation isn't correlated to profit. Through March, only the middle high school and Ruggles Lane are profitable. At Hardwick and Hubbardston, that's due to repairs, which I talked about last month. The middle high school has a profit right now of over $27,000, and that's with capital purchases of $17,000 and repairs of $7,000. So if you had taken those purchases and repairs out, they'd be over $50,000. So that's pretty, is it 50? It's 50. We did talk about all of the equipment needs at the schools. We've talked about all of the repairs that are happening at the schools. One of the industry targets is to maintain a labor and food cost between 70 and 80%. And our director looks at this every month. Right now, the middle high school is the only program that is between that range. Hubbardston and New Braintree OCAM are significantly higher at 95 and 97% are labor and food costs. What this means is that we have too many labor hours at these two locations. And what happens is you need 4 hands, but you only have 40 meals or 20 meals per day being served. So with a simple calculation that Kerry has used, taking the lowest meal price plus the federal reimbursement, she estimates that we are losing 8 cents per plate served at Hardwick. We're losing 25 cents per plate served at Hubbardston and 50 cents per plate at New Braintree OCAM. So if we don't make some changes in our program, we're going to end up with a program that is not breaking even, never mind being profitable. So this problem is going to be amplified if what Maureen just talked about doesn't happen, and if New Braintree and OCAM students go back to their respective schools next year. The director has approached me with a concern and a preliminary proposal. She believes that we would have to use a satellite program system where food is prepared at the high school, the middle high school, and then travels to OCAM and New Braintree. There's a lot of concerns with this proposal as well, but we're just having preliminary discussions. We would need a refrigerator truck to do this. We can't get deliveries to those two schools if the students go back to New Braintree and OCAM. We won't meet any of the minimum levels for transport. So we would have to do it ourselves. It would also limit the menus at both of these schools as compared to Hardwick, Hubbardston, and Barry, which is kind of like not fair to the kids. And at minimum, we would have to revert to the old days of having a ticket system, and every student would have a ticket because we would need to reduce labor hours there to get out of this lost predicament, which would mean that one person would prepare the meals as they come from the middle high school and serve, and then take the tickets and put them into a POS system, which is supposed to do everything automatically. So it's not very efficient. It might not be very effective because there'll be human error related there. But these are some of the things that Kerry is thinking about as we go into next school year. We just have to reduce our labor costs somehow, and otherwise we're going to be coming to the committee saying we're no longer breaking even. We need to have the budget pay for school lunch, up and above bad debts. Yes, Dr. Allen?
Seems to me we recently increased prices.
No, we increased prices for next school year, yes.
Yes,
Yes.
that's my understanding. How does that affect?
I did not do those calculations for tonight. I could look at that, but there's two reasons why we're in the predicament we are, especially in Hardwick, which usually is a school that is profitable. It's because the equipment is breaking more often. In Hardwick, we had over $6,000 worth of repairs on the refrigeration units over there. So that's contributing. If we could put money, get the towns to put money into new equipment in our buildings, that would help with our repair costs anyway. The labor costs, that means we just need to do some things differently, because we have a very senior staff in cafeteria, so the salaries are pretty high for the number of students that are being fed in Hubbardston and New Braintree OCAM. So Kerry's just thinking about this, but I thought the committee should be aware of some things that would need to change if we do split those two buildings back again next year. I also wanted to just reach out to the committee and ask if Jess could, on behalf of the committee, reach out to the selectmen in OCAM. Mr. Labar has had conversations and emails back and forth with the director regarding the dishwasher that was purchased or was going to be purchased for next school year. We'd like to know, she asked what is the targeted date for receipt of that dishwasher. And they've also had conversations about that OCAM was thinking about purchasing the oven that we had requested for next year from the funds from the asbestos abatement project. They had less cost than were projected for that program. But he hasn't returned her email since the beginning of the month, so I'd like if Jess could send out an email just asking where they are, because the Plant and Facilities Department is working right now getting OCAM prepared for school opening. With a delayed ending school date this year, it leaves only 1 week in June for facilities to get all of our buildings going for 1 week in June and then the summer. So they were hoping to get all of OCAM done, and then Claire's staff can go other places and get ready for the opening day of school. So if we just could get a date of like when that will be there, then they could get everything taken care of over in OCAM.
Let it be sent to OCAM asking for a date.
Second.
Thank you. What else do I have?
Walter?
The last selectmen's meeting I was at, just a couple of weeks ago, they talked about the stove, and they seemed to be leaning toward not buying one. They wanted to plug the old one in, see what worked, because they said that part of it worked and part of it didn't.
The oven doesn't work at all, just
The oven doesn't work at all?
no, and we did
Okay.
give this information
They
to
didn't
him
seem to know
because
that.
Mr. Labar reached out to Claire, and then
Yeah.
between Claire and Kerry, they talked to him, and they've known this since we began that project. The oven does not work, the cooktop works.
Oh, okay.
It's
So they know
it's
that?
an ancient
They
piece of
didn't say that
equipment.
at the meeting.
It's an ancient piece of equipment, estimated to be over 60 years old. It's as big as, cut this table in half and put it
Well, you
together in a
almost need a
square.
rigging thing to get it in and out.
And we were hoping not to have to put it down on that brand-new floor.
Right.
Do we know if the dishwasher has been purchased?
We
Claire, I
we
mean,
think that they basically said they didn't want to purchase it until they were ready for the install.
Dishwasher has been purchased.
Okay,
it has been purchased, but it hasn't been delivered.
See, we can't put anything else back in until the dishwasher really, like, we don't wanna shift things around. The
Sure.
dishwasher's gotta get in there beforehand.
Sure, yeah, okay. All right, so okay, any other comments on that? Voting on the motion, all in favor to send the letter? Raise your hands, please. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, thank you.
I have nothing else till later on the agenda, thank you.
All righty. Teacher advisory,
Evan was unable to come tonight because he had to go to a meeting in Ocam, and he asked me to just communicate on behalf of him, how well the trip to Washington DC went for the 8th graders. It really went without any major incidents. I've been on the trip a half a dozen times over the years, and it was really a wonderful group of kids that went on the trip. He was also wanted to be very appreciative on behalf of the teachers to Dave Marsh and Dave Deschamps for participating in that trip, and their presence was greatly appreciated by them. So he just asked me to pass that along.
Okay.
And apologizes that he couldn't be here tonight.
How about the, any feedback on the trip to Europe?
The feedback on the trip to Europe, they got back, both trips that went to Europe got back yesterday. The kids that went over to Germany stayed in Berlin as an exchange program with some families of kids that were here in the fall. By all accounts, that went very well. I talked to Mrs. Blake today, and she said that Berlin was an amazing city and our kids had a wonderful time, and it went very, very well. It was a great experience for them. The trip to Normandy, Paris, and London with an NJROTC program, they got back a little bit earlier yesterday. And they had a bigger group. They had about 35 kids that went on that trip. That went very well, too.
Great.
So they were very appreciative of the fact that the school committee gives our kids that opportunity to travel overseas in different programs. The relationship that's developed with the program in Germany, we now have a young man that would like to come here next year for the entire year. And we're in the process of trying to work with that family to get some agencies to work with us to have that student be here next year.
Great.
So it's created a good relationship between us and that school in Berlin. It's a school that had relationships with other schools in the state that I believe will not continue, but they do want to continue with the relationship that they have with us. So that's been a wonderful beginning to that over the course of the past year.
Possibly, maybe the next meeting, we could have either representatives from one or both trips
Yep.
present. I think that would be
Yeah,
appreciated.
Yep.
You can arrange that.
Yep.
However, good, great. Any other questions on that? Okay, I don't see Celine here, so I presume.
Celine also sends her apologies. She was on the varsity golf team and they had a match today. She was hoping that she could be here. She wasn't sure if they'd be done in time. But, you know, she's also kind of winding down as a senior, and we'll have some elections in the next month regarding the student
Has she
advisor.
chosen her school yet?
You know what? I haven't heard from her about that. I talked to her today and she didn't even mention it.
She's down to two. She has two choices, and I spoke with her maybe,
Yeah, she got into Brown and then she also
Northeastern.
was very drawn to Northeastern
Right.
because of the programming at Northeastern.
and-
So she has not told me, I didn't ask her, I forgot to ask her. To be
I
honest.
I saw her 4 or 5 days ago, and she still is on the
So,
edge.
She has till May 1st to make her decision.
I mean, her brother's at Northeastern, so that helps a lot.
Right,
I mean,
right.
you know.
She's very
somebody-
familiar with Northeastern, it's a comfortable place for her. And they have a very specific program in like neuroscience that she's interested in as an undergrad. So she's torn, at least the last time I talked to her, which was about 2 weeks ago, she was very torn about where this was gonna take her and what her, her option was gonna be, what her choice was gonna be. But she's been a great asset to the school, and it's wonderful to see her as a graduate. I'm sure she will do wonderful things, and we will move forward with having an official student advisory council member next year. If you remember, Cassie Whitelaw last year was actually a member of the Regional Student Advisory Council, and we didn't really have anybody that was really interested in doing that this year. And I'm hoping that we can get somebody to kind of. That would have been a wonderful thing for Celine to be involved with. So that's something that hopefully we will do next year. The other thing I just want to mention in regard to the students, this year, our seniors upon graduation will probably have done in excess of 10,000 hours of community service over the course of their 4 years. And I think sometimes we forget that we have that requirement and the value that adds to our community can't really be measured. I mean, the 10,000 hours that our kids do over the course of the 4 years in terms of being at places like the senior center in Barry, the library, the elementary schools in different places, they really bring a lot to the community, and they also receive a lot from the community, and that's been a wonderful addition to our graduation requirements over the course of the past 7 or 8 years. And the kids have stepped it up, and they really understand that that's something that they need to do, and that it's good for them to do. And their community service opportunities that they have range everywhere from, I have one kid who has a lot of difficulty in terms of getting to places, and he's writing thank you letters to members of the service and to veterans for his community service. And he's a kid that's a little challenged, so this is something that's a really beneficial thing for him to do. Ranging from that to kids doing full-blown programs at like animal shelters and all kinds of places. So I think, in terms of speaking for Celine, I want to just let you know that our kids really do a lot as students in our community, and it's because of the expectation that you have set on them. So it's appreciated that you support them in that.
Thanks. All right, subcommittee reports. Admin review, no probably. Audit, no. Budget?
We haven't met in a full budget subcommittee meeting since the last full school committee meeting. However, Maureen and Cheryl met with the Hubbardston Selectmen the end of last month, and, I was there. And, they really, I think they were appreciative of the fact that there was a very minimal budget increase. But on the flip side of that, they were also concerned that their assessment increase for Hubbardston went up 5.75% due to target share and a number of different reasons. But the fact of the matter is, we had talked about some new numbers from the state, which I really don't think we've gotten anything in yet, that we told them we'd at least look at perhaps providing some relief, if at all possible. There were no guarantees. I'm sure that, OCAM is probably in a little bit of the same situation with the 6.44% increase. So we remain at, was it 34,173,990 as the fiscal 19 budget, right, Cheryl?
We remain at the same number,
Remain at
yes.
the same number.
We do
Yes.
expect where we really had expected that we would have House numbers, that they would have deliberated through all of their amendments. They had over 250 amendments to what was originally reported out. I believe it was before we went.
19th.
The 19th. And obviously, we don't really know what regional transportation is going to be with the House number. The first pass from the House, they added $1 million to regional transportation, which is not significant at all. We know that we have at least 2 amendments on the floor that are under discussion and debate. And we have a lot of, sort of legislative support, but obviously in the House, it's all by population, and we're not in the most populated part of the Commonwealth, so we have fewer representatives who can get in there and really make their voices heard. However, there was tons of people at the State House yesterday talking specifically about schools and funding for education. So revenues are up beyond what was projected, but who knows what the governor and others will decide. But at any rate, unfortunately, we were hopeful that we would have at least a new, reasonably robust regional transportation number, which would have allowed us to do, as Mark has talked about, which is pass through that money to the towns and see depressed assessments. We did get a little more in Chapter 70 money, and Cheryl will talk about that in a minute, not a lot, and if we use that House number, that's about $31,000. But divvied up amongst the 5 towns, I mean, let's face it, they're not going to be applauding that. But at any rate, just to let you know that we continue to work with our representatives and obviously our senators as the budget process moves forward. We thought we would have better numbers for the towns, by April 30th, because we have to have assessments to the towns by that date. We're going to unfortunately send them assessments that are pretty much a duplication of what they've already seen. But we certainly can put that with a cover letter, while the treasurer sends one cover letter, Cheryl and I can add another, which will say, we continue to wait for the numbers, and obviously we'll continue to manage the budget and the assessment numbers until town meeting, and we'll continue to keep them appraised of the situation. They're waiting for the same kind of numbers. They're waiting for what's local aid going to look like, what Chapter 90 going to look like. So they're very aware of the budget process. So we're not telling them anything they don't know, but we are in certainly concert with them and saying that we're going to try to help them manage those assessments.
In your package, you also have a budget transfer request and an appropriation control report. As we go throughout the year, obviously, there's periodically needs for budget transfer requests between appropriation categories. This is somewhat minimal in nature between a couple different categories. And I'll turn it over to Cheryl to talk a little bit about appropriation control and the budget transfer request.
Thank you, Mark. Actually, there are 3 quarterly reports in your packet. The first one is the FY18 budget, the appropriation control report. There's one for the revolving accounts and the grants as well. If we refer to the document that's titled FY18 Budget Transfer Request, I can walk you through what we're requesting tonight. As is customary, and we have to wait until our E-rate reimbursement, which is our reimbursement from the state for technology. We have to wait until that is granted before we can transfer money out of that account in case we don't get that money. So transfer A, which is denoted by an A on the line, is asking to transfer 104,400, and I've got the wrong number somewhere. Okay, I'm sorry. A, we transfer $105,052 from category 4400 to 4450 networking and telecommunications because of E-rate reimbursement up into category 2100 to 3200 instructional support, specifically all going to classroom instructional technology hardware. So that's the first transfer. The second transfer is down in special education, where we have had over expenditures in our legal account. That's in the 1,000 to 1435 category of district administration. And we have an overage in contracted services for special education, which you can see on the appropriation control report, the two negatives that we are at right now. So the request is to transfer from the tuition line, where we actually have a budget balance, $104,479, $35,000 of which would go to district administration and $69,479 to instructional support.
You need a motion, right?
Yes, please.
Okay. Motion to move $105,052 from 44/4450 networking and telecommunications into 21-3200 instructional support under regular education, undesignated regular education.
Second.
Also, do we need to
Let's do one at a
separate these?
time.
No.
Oh, okay. Good.
Okay. In addition, we're moving out of 9,000 tuition, we're moving $104,479 into two separate categories, 2100-3200 instructional support for $69,479, and category 1000-1435 district administration to the tune of $35,000.
Now the second.
Second.
Okay. Comments, conversation, anybody? Okay, seeing none, roll call, correct?
Yes. Dr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Sarabia? Mr. Spear? Mrs. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Mr. Hanson?
Yes.
Mr. Wigler?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Mr. Jean-Francois?
Yes.
And Chairman Willinen.
Yes.
We make the vote, Jess? You made the 2/3?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to go on to FY19 now. Oh, but I didn't pass it out, sorry. I was holding the report to make sure the superintendent and I were on the same page. There is no change to the budget, like Mr. Wigler mentioned earlier. The budget remains at the vote that was taken to go to public hearing in March, $34,173,990. What is changing, however, even though this usually never happens, the Department of Revenue, Division of Local Services, published the numbers that came out of the House budget, the first version. They usually wait until all of the amendments have been gone over and the House Ways and Means budget comes out. But for some reason, they posted the House numbers on April 19th. So what I have done, on my screen it's red, but here it's black and white. The Chapter 70 aid has been increased. I thought I had a chart as to how much it is increased, but increased $21,060. Regional transportation reimbursement has increased $12,985, And charter school reimbursement, charter school tuition reimbursement has decreased by $2,927. So the net impact in increased revenue sources is $31,118. So what that will do, if we go down towards the bottom of the page of projected revenue sources, is it drops slightly the assessment increase to towns.
Slightly.
And I did have another report that had that all listed out for me, but I can't find it. It's like $21,000 to Barry, and it gets lower from there. So the assessment letters would include these increases to the towns: Barry 4.48, Hardwick 3.12, Hubbardston 5.57, New Braintree 1.13. Why is this not making sense to me? And Ocam 6.26. You know what? It's just not making sense to me. Is it making sense to you, Maureen?
No.
Yeah. If you let me go to my office to look for that other sheet of paper.
We can move on in the agenda,
Yeah,
Cheryl,
yeah,
and come
'cause
back
that-
to this.
For some reason, that's not making sense to me.
Okay, moving on. Central office, do you know if there's any?
Central office, just to let you know that we've had another meeting with our strategic plan team and have been working on putting together, obviously working to put together what the strategic plan will be, looking at what we call the 3 pillars or 4 pillars, whatever we decide, as to where we'll be focusing our efforts and attention. I think, is our next meeting the 25th? Is it this Friday or is it into May?
It's May 11th.
Is it May 11th?
May 11th.
Oh, we've shifted around numbers several times. So on May 11th, we'll be continuing our work on that, and by June, we should be having that wrapped up and ready for the committee to review.
Okay. Questions? All right, collective bargaining, no. Plant and facilities?
Yeah, we had a meeting and we discussed buying a new lift and new truck, and we moved money around and we're going to get them, I think.
What kind of
Is
truck?
that right, Tex?
Well, we discussed it.
We discussed it.
What kind of truck? I mean,
Oh.
big truck,
No,
little truck?
it's one of the vans that is
Vans.
necessary for our project
Falling
techs
apart.
who drive around the district and repair and provide all of the repair work in our schools. The
So-
current van is no longer servicing us well.
No.
So we hope to move forward on that.
How many miles are on it, Claire?
I want to say it was 114,000. We purchased it used. It carries a lot of weight,
Yep.
but it's rotted out. He's a good body man, but you just can't keep fixing.
Okay.
It's tired.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Questions? Anybody want to offer a van? All righty. Policy and review. We're good.
Yeah, no, we have things.
Okay.
I had been requested for a meeting before this one, and then I was requested to delay it till May. There's a laundry list of stuff which is getting in compliance with the state and those whirlybirds in Boston and whatever they are, to get just where good sense, compassion, understanding would take care of 98% of this. They appear not to have those particular attributes. And the other thing is this business about physical education and kids doing whatever in lieu of. And at the last school committee meeting, I had asked that that be brought, and I'm hoping we get something that has a rubric of some sort, and we can discuss it, but it would go to the principal and then maybe the superintendent. I don't see it needs to come to us, but although I guess we're always the court of last resort on that kind of stuff. But we should kind of talk about what makes sense and what doesn't, and have a rubric of some sort that you can follow that we've all agreed on. I think that's the most sensible approach, but it has to go, we need to talk about it and make sure that we're all in concurrence on that, and that will be review and reform for just before the next, a half an hour or so before the next meeting. That's what I have been requested.
Okay, so your meeting will be when? May 10th?
Whatever your meeting is.
May 10th.
Okay, May 10th. Thank you. Special ed?
Nope, not this month. We're
Okay.
gonna need one next month.
These numbers are exactly the same as those numbers, the governor's numbers.
The QUEMP?
I'm sorry.
That's Jack.
Call the task force.
They're
and
correct.
he's here.
Okay. The change was ever so slight. Yeah.
There's nothing to report, thank you, Mrs. Bennett. I called her this morning, actually panicked that I had nothing. I thought I was having a memory problem, and she reminded me of all the snowstorms we had that canceled all the meetings and postponed the meetings that were scheduled. So there is a meeting tomorrow night at 6 PM here, and we'll just get feedback from the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission on what they've done so far with the surveys and the meetings and where they plan to go from here.
And just to let you know that Cheryl and I will be in Barry with Selectmen and Budget and Finance Committee. Sheila will be at the QUEMP meeting. And no, you won't be in Barry, you'll be at the QUEMP meeting. So we'll be kind of splitting ourselves up to be at both meetings. So we're all excited about our opportunity to attend the Barry Selectmen's and Budget and Finance Committee meeting, so.
What time is that?
That's at 6 PM. There's two other groups that are presenting. So we'll try to get maybe if we can talk to the selectmen and try to find out, if there are two groups before us and maybe we don't need to be there at 6, maybe we can be there a little later.
Cheryl might know that.
No, she doesn't. She just knows.
I just need to look at my email.
Okay, we'll check it out. But at any rate, so that is, if any Barry members who are not in QUEMP would like to join us, that would be great. It is in the Selectmen's office at the Henry Woods Building. And
Is that the meeting they usually invite us to?
we have been invited, yes. Well, we were invited and, yeah, well, they just invite us, and so we extended the invitation to the Barry members and said, if you would like to join us, that we'd love to have you. There's nothing new that unfortunately, we thought we'd have some new numbers for them, but unfortunately, there's nothing new from what we've kind of communicated to them before. I feel badly about that. They want us to do more. We understand that. I mean, I don't know who they're going to meet with before us, but I'm sure the situation is the same. There's not enough money to go around, and obviously, they will look for help and assistance from us, and we will do our best to get through the House budget and see what we can do.
The selectmen accounts and the police department are before us on the agenda.
Okay, that'll be good.
So is it a FinCom meeting or a joint meeting?
I think it's a FinCom joint meeting because it's
Are
Wednesday
you gonna
night.
survive that one?
I don't know.
Finance committee.
It's a FinCom meeting, but they've
FinCom
invited the
meeting.
Yes,
selectmen?
yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm guessing, public safety and schools, that's the big parts of the budget. So I'm
Well, how much are
guessing.
they gonna cut themselves?
Well, I mean, I don't want to throw stones at them thinking that they spend money that they shouldn't spend because I'm not into their bailiwick. And just like I don't like it when they say that I shouldn't spend money on X. I mean, if they say they need a new cruiser, who am I to say they don't? I don't know. And certainly, we've worked hard to build relationships with our new chief and working with our school safety planning and our new school resource officer, at least part-time that he's been. We have a new gentleman who's kind of been with us now about a month and a half maybe. And, so we've had some really good relationships and things are working out really well. So, we have to get along with the towns. And I know, none of them believe I say that, but working with the towns is always helpful and in the best interest of the students in the end. Fighting over a 60-year-old oven seems to me silly, but it is what it is. And if we could take the ovens off and just use maybe we don't have to, or is it one whole unit? Because
I
it doesn't
believe
work.
it's one whole unit.
Yeah, so,
60 years ago, they didn't
yeah, I know.
compartmentalize.
Modular, stone modular.
All right.
So at any rate,
Yeah.
that's our work for tomorrow night, so we'll be in Barry.
Okay. Technology?
Nothing.
Okay. Back to you, Cheryl.
I apologize. The numbers are correct. That $31,000 additional revenue is ever so slight changes in assessment. So Barry's will reduce from 4.71 to 4.48. Hardwick, 3.35. It'll now be 3.12. Hubbardson, that's the one that made me guess because it was 5.75. Now it's 5.57. New Braintree was at 1.31. It's at 1.13. OCAM was at 6.44. It'll be at 6.26 for overall assessment increases of 4.55 as related to 4.76.
And still a budget increase of 1.95.
Right.
questions?
So as soon as we have, information from the House and what those numbers are, we may be modifying our assessments at that point, or I don't know what or just having conversations with them and then finally sending an assessment after the Senate, whatever.
Okay. More, Cheryl?
I believe that is all I have tonight. That is all I have tonight.
Okay. Any unfinished business? No, nobody put in for public comment. School committee concerns? All right, so we'll roll from the back end upwards. Dick?
Okay, well, I'm hearing about this 60-year-old senior thing, and I'm thinking, that doesn't sound so
No
old to me.
action necessary.
Okay, bunch of quick things. The ROTC changing of the guard. There were how many of us were there?
I was there, but I didn't pay
Yeah,
attention.
there were a bunch of us. It was good, and I talked, Tex and I talked, the girl, Elise Wilson, gave a talk, sort of a charge to the incoming classes that I was very proud of. And I have talked to the head guy, and I talked to Lee about her coming and giving that presentation. I had pride that one of our kids could speak with the eloquence and the thoughtfulness and the sincerity that she did on this. So I've asked her to come and give that talk. And I was thinking tonight, but they said, you know, they're just coming back, so next month is better. So that's that. On this blended instruction, Sheila found a meeting down in Providence. And again, how many of us were there? No. Yeah. So there were a bunch of us there. I talked to Evan. He couldn't come, but he sent some of his people. There were, what, 3, 4, 5 teachers. So that was good. And Edgenuity, that's the outfit that's doing our credit recovery thing. Greg introduced me to him, and I had a long talk with him. I'm going to have him come to, probably in October, to talk to Review and Reform about what online instruction looks like, feels like, smells like, how you touch it, the kind of teacher training. Not that we necessarily want to use that, but I think that's a good example of what it is, who it is, how it is, and that sort of thing. There was a basketball game that was kind of fun. Yeah, some of you may have heard the rumors. Anyway, it was to raise money for a canine. And they had a policeman from Marlboro that brought a dog and did a demonstration, which was very interesting. The dog was superb, except he didn't always follow what the instructors were saying. He was after the treats. And he was following instructions fine, unless he decided he wanted it. So that was kind of, Evan, who was not here, was playing there, and that was kind of fun. I was in Ahwatukee last week, which is a suburb of Phoenix, and talking to some kids, and I said, you know, we had our kids in Germany, we had our kids in France, we had, you know, going to DC, and I think the band was in Chicago. Yes. And man, this is a little rural outfit, and look where our kids are, and what our kids are doing. What a tribute, I think, to looking out beyond. And it was a great thing. So, and I got to see Sue. You know, when we approved the trips with the usual provisos?
Yeah.
Well, I went to work out in the gym, and there was Sue with, what do you think you had, 200 people, 300?
Well, 160 students and at least one parent with each one.
So you had 300 people, or more, in the gym. And she was going through the usual provisos with them. And who was that other woman that was there?
Becky Robidoux.
Becky Robidoux. She was going through. And so I said, I didn't know I was there, but I said, wow, and it was detailed instructions. And it was kind of fun from my standpoint, because I remember when we made the policy, and I remember how we passed it. but to see what the detail is and how it's laid out and how it's presented and all, was really pretty good. So that was kind of a good deal.
Good.
That's what I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill?
Okay, I had two somewhat related issues. I went to the Second Amendment talk. I thought that was really well done. It was a little limited because of, the
Issues.
nature of it, but there were some great questions submitted. It was a little, beforehand, I spoke to a couple of people about it, and one person was like, how could the school committee sponsor this pro-gun rah-rah rally? And then someone else said, how could the school committee do this anti-gun? And so it was like, both of them, I was like, well, why don't you go? It's like, that's the amendment, that's what we're looking at. The other issue was on, the whole student walkout. The students were motivated by really the fact that our generation, adults, have failed them. That, like it was said at the event, Congress is paralyzed. They can't do anything. So the students got together and said, we have to do something. And I was a little disappointed that the school said, after the students are like, we have to do something, our older generation has failed us. The school said, well, don't walk out that day, walk out this day. And it's like, that's the whole point, is that they're not, it's the time when they have to stop listening to us, that they have to do things on their own. So, my daughter, she was here a couple of months ago, she, had an award, and she's getting a gold award, but I don't know if I've been prouder of her than when she actually walked out that day. She got up and walked out and said, Dad, I walked out. I got detention, but it was like, that's what it's about. So I think it's, I think it's the idea that we're saying to them, don't walk out when it's better for us because of the weather, misses the whole point of this. We want them to be motivated like this. And when, one of the prime things in education is when your students are motivated, they're ready to go, get out of their way. Just let them. I understand it was inconvenient, the weather was delayed, but years from now, everyone's going to be saying, they get together like, oh yeah, remember March 14th when we walked out? Our kids are going to say, oh, well, we walked out the next day because the administration said, oh, don't walk out that day. So I was a little disappointed in that. I think just let them go.
No, I know.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Could I just say, I thought it was still effective on March 16th when I went. Kids did good. He ran the program well, and I was happy to be there March 16th. And to me, it made sense.
Okay. Thanks. Anyone else? Thank you. New business. We're not going to do the calendar, right?
Right, the
Okay.
QRTA is still, we're still waiting for their input.
Okay, so that knocks that off. All right, so
This is just the typical annual motion that we must take under the DESI regulations to indicate that in accordance with their regulations, we are a school choice school
So
district.
moved.
Second.
questions, comments? Everybody understand? Bless you. What we're voting for? Okay, all in favor of the motion, please raise your hands. Opposed? Abstentions? Great. We don't need an executive session, right? Nobody wants one? Good.
Nobody wants it.
Move adjourned.
Thank you. Second? All right.
We make